Hello to my friends at the Play Gun Lake Casino. I can only tell you this. Everybody in Philadelphia is a bit blue today. We are blue. We are not red because of the outcome of that Game 7 last night. I remember there was like this 1980s gallows humor about Detroit, dismissive of unions and auto workers. Don't buy a car that was made on a Monday because people are hungover. Don't buy a car that's made on a Friday because people are looking forward to their weekend. Buy a car that was, is this my old man telling me this? Buy a car that was made on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Thursdays. I feel like you don't want to eat a cheesesteak made in Philadelphia today because people are so bummed out about the outcome of last night's game. However, we still have college football to look forward to. Michigan, it's another weekend loaded with college football. Michigan's a 5.5-point favorite at Penn State. Michigan State, a 7-point underdog at Minnesota. Monday Night Pro Football, Detroit, an 8-point favorite hosting Las Vegas. My listeners in Michigan loving the Play Gun Lake Casino and Sportsbook app, the only app that I recommend in the great state of Michigan. Download the Play Gun Lake Casino and app right now. All your fun games, odds and slots and bets are right there in your pocket. Get some skin in the game for the action upcoming this weekend. New users only. There's a casino bonus offer. It's got to be wagered. All the terms and conditions apply. You can learn more by seeing the website at playgunlake.com. Got to be 21 and in Michigan. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline, 1-800-270-7117. Time now for more of the headlines from the Wednesday edition of the Daily Newsletter. TC, on Saturday, I was in a beer distributorship in the town where I was born and raised.
Okay.
I would like to tell you what I purchased.
Okay.
I purchased one Ashton cigar because they had a humidor.
Oh.
And
so what is this, like a fancy beer dealership?
No, it's a pretty cool beer dealer. Blah, blah, blah. Beer distributorship. I bought a cigar.
Okay.
Even though I had cigars at home, but I don't know, impulse buy, bought a cigar. Okay. Then I bought 2 6-packs. Actually, one was a 6-pack and one was a 4-pack.
Okay.
The 6-pack was of Ballast Point Sculpin. Very colorful can. It's from San Diego. Love the beer. It's like a fish, a sculpin that's on the can. I'm mentioning this in case people are like, oh yeah, I've seen that or I've had that to drink.
Okay.
And then I bought a 4-pack of Type A from Conshohocken Brewery.
Feels right.
Cigar, 6-pack, 4-pack, and a case of Bud Light.
Wow, you really went all out.
The Bud Light was on sale, and I made a deliberative decision to buy the Bud Light because I wanted to be supportive of Bud Light in the face of all the people who've abandoned Bud Light over Dylan Mulvaney getting some cans, right? Like, Dylan Mulvaney, who is an influencer, a trans influencer, is like they put her image on some cans and then people went batshit about it. Kid Rock shooting up the cans and so forth. I think finally Bud Light is back.
The tide has turned.
I think it has.
Wow.
And like Modelo overtook Bud Light.
That was unbelievable.
I never drink Modelo.
I know.
But they've got $100 million deal with UFC. Like if the whole campaign against Bud Light was a machismo,
right.
How could you do that, Bud?
Right.
What could be more manly than a deal with UFC?
It is. I find it fascinating, and I think what it shows. I think it shows that there was an overreaction. One.
You think?
And I think it also shows that people really like Bud Light. I mean, that's got to be part of this.
Yeah.
It's not just what I'm saying. Like people miss it.
Right.
So I think that just,
remember,
like the dust settled and people just kept drinking it.
Well, remember, I mean, talk about the whole hypocrisy of this. Do you remember Kid Rock was seen in a Nashville bar after he shot up the cans drinking a Bud Light?
Right. Calmly. Like no big deal.
And then the other smart thing that Bud Light has done, I guess it's Anheuser-Busch, is a partnership with Travis Kelce.
Prior to the whole Taylor Swift situation.
Right. Oh, my God. The people who must love that relationship are the Bud Light people.
Or anyone that has anything to do with Travis Kelce. Because it just elevates just a whole new audience.
And then at one of the Phillies games, you had Travis and Jason having a beer. And what were they having?
Bud Light.
They were having Bud Light.
Right. No better advertisement.
Right.
No better advertisement.
Right. So Bud Light is back.
Bud Light is back.
Okay,
now we know.
I was never
You never abandoned it, Michael.
Well, no, the thing is, I was never a Bud Light drinker.
Oh.
I was never a Bud Light drinker until this controversy. And then I became one. And now, by the way, I think I'm done.
Oh, okay, good.
I think this case that I bought of the Bud Light is my last case.
Okay.
Because they don't need me anymore.
They don't need you.
They have $100 million from UFC.
Perfect.
I think it's all good.
I think it's all good.
Yeah, that was never right. That
No.
was never right.
No, it just seemed to be, again, overblown, and people like the beer, and we're done.
There's a brilliant editorial cartoon in the newsletter today from Rob Rogers. I'll describe it, but this is exclusive content for those who are subscribers of the newsletter. So it's a guy looking at an old school newspaper box, and the New York Times headline says, "Oops, we shouldn't have trusted Hamas," because the Times had to walk back their reportage of the hospital strike. And then there's a thought bubble of a guy looking at it, and he says, "Come on, what happened to vetting sources?" Right? He's like critical of the tire. And on his back, it says, "Trump won the 2020 election."
I mean, come on. Come on.
I love these cartoons. And
They make you think.
they make you think and laugh.
That's for sure.
So I'm pretty sure this is going to happen. Circle your calendars for next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Okay. And my hope is that evening, online for newsletter subscribers, we're going to do a live video where I'm going to interview Jack Oman, who is our Tuesday editorial cartoonist, Rob Rogers, Wednesday's guy, and Steve Breen.
Okay.
I think it's going to happen. Circle the calendar. More details to come. You have to be a newsletter subscriber because the way I envision it, like the last time, is we're going to put the link in the newsletter, and only people who are newsletter subscribers, Gesundheit,
Thank you,
will be able to join us. Poll results yesterday, 20,912 votes cast. There should be no ceasefire in the Israel-Gaza war until the hostages are released. That was President Biden's view. It was an agree or disagree. 71.59% agreed with it. Now today, TC, my wording, not the best, although you and I went back and forth. Okay, so the poll question today: should major university donors have a say in the school's stance on geopolitical issues? And what brings this to mind, a story that's posted at Smerconish.com today, heavy news cycle. Like no shortage of news. And the number one story at the Wall Street Journal today, early morning, was about the continued controversy at so-called elite institutions about, did the school president say enough about the Hamas attack on Israel, the student reaction, yada, yada, yada. A lot of deep-pocketed donors, furious at Penn, furious at Harvard. At Penn, they want the ouster of the chairman of the board of trustees
that's
and
not
the Penn
dying
president.
down. Yeah.
It has not died down.
Yeah.
So I was trying to come up with a question, and I don't think I succeeded. I don't think I did the best job that I could have done. But I wanted to know, what do people think about how much heft you give the voice of the major donors? I was toying with the word dictate. Mm-hmm. Should major university donors be able to dictate the school's stance on geopolitical issues? And I thought that's a tinged word, dictate. Nobody's going to vote for a dictator.
Right.
So I hope
we also talked about control, and we
Didn't like
thought that was
either.
the same idea.
So hopefully you get where I'm coming from on this.
I think we do.
Should they get, I want
Should there,
them.
you know what, it almost is what you're asking, should there be strings attached? I mean, is that what it is?
Yeah, but then again,
I'll give you this money, but then you have to say what I want you to say about X, Y, or Z.
Right, which is different from I'll give you this money to endow a government professor.
Yeah.
A journalism professor. So I think people are getting it.
Because you can give that amount of money to endow something, but does it also come with strings attached?
Right. I believe this. I believe that I would like to think that if I were a university president, that I would have said something similar to what Ben Sass said in condemning the Hamas attack, condemning Hamas and the attack on Israel on 10/7.
Yeah.
Having said that, I am a believer that you need to have a place, of all places, it's got to be a university, if not a university where there can be an exchange of ideas, not hate speech, I hope, but an exchange of ideas even when things get hot. And you got to bring in speakers of a variety of perspectives. I don't want to say, well, you can't have this person on campus and you can't have that person on campus. Like cancel culture suits only the person whose viewpoint isn't represented with the speaker that you're having. Greg Lukianoff from FIRE who has written a couple of good books on this subject and was recently a guest on this program, he's the one who brought me into the loop on the Calvin Report, which was something in the late 60s that came out of a University of Chicago look at how does a university handle controversial speech. And the bottom line was with neutrality. With neutrality. So go vote on today's poll question at Smerconish.com. More headlines now from the Wednesday edition of the newsletter. I'm following this. I'm interested in this. I've spoken extensively about the impact of social media on society and in particular on our youth. I believe, ever since iGen came out, Jean Twangy's book, the University of San Diego psychologist, and convinced me of a causal connection between the rise of mental health problems in our youth and the spread of social media and connectivity. When Jean Twangy wrote the book, Dr. Twangy, she was really speaking of correlation, not causation. Now she goes a step further, and she's got a follow-up book to that. But anybody who's listened to this program on a regular basis knows this is a continual theme of discussion, and I've brought in so many of the different experts. I think we're going to have Frances Haugen, the Meta Facebook whistleblower, on the program later this
You've been
week.
Interested in her for a while.
Long time. Yeah, long time. Well, I buried
the
the headline. The headline is this: dozens of states have now sued the Facebook and Instagram parent Meta over addictive features and tying it to the youth mental health crisis. Your thoughts?
This is what I feel like with so many of these social media things. I think with social media and all kinds of electronic things, phones, etc., the technology went before anything could be well thought out. So it all sort of exploded. I can't imagine something like this is going to work. I can't imagine.
You mean
like
the lawsuit?
Genie, yeah, I just feel like the genie's out of the bottle, or how the toothpaste is out of the tube.
I fear you're right.
I think
but I like it.
I understand what they're doing. Right. I understand what they're doing. I'm glad they're shining a spotlight. I just don't know what could be done. Okay, even if they're successful, how do you scale it back now? There's always going to be the next thing. If it's not Facebook, then it's Snapchat, then it's TikTok.
Gotta mingle. Gotta get out of our houses and mingle.
But you can't legislate that.
I agree with your original point, which is like when Al Gore invented the internet and crafted this World Wide Web, and we were all going to be able to sit.
People believe you when you say things like that.
People were going to be able to sit, remotely in front of computers and converse electronically with one another and look shit up and all this stuff.
Right.
Like no one could ever have imagined.
Ever.
And then this will beget this, which will beget this, which will beget this. And before long, we're going to have something called Instagram. And people are going to present their lives or an image of their lives through photographs and short videos. Then there'll be TikTok. And then we're going to have kids.
People will make a lot of money on those.
And then we're going to
be called influencers.
Then we're going to have kids sitting behind closed doors, creating artificial lives instead of going out and leading lives.
And then there are going to be people that are going to feel terrible about themselves because they think that everything that they see online is real, and they're not rich enough, thin enough, smart enough. You fill in the blank.
Right.
Oh, and then we're going to have a global pandemic that exacerbates every single thing we just said and makes everything 10 times worse.
So there's that.
Wow,
okay.
Now I'm depressed.
Now a related story in my view. This is stunning from Gallup. A quarter of the world feels lonely. A quarter of the world. Nearly 1 in 4 people worldwide, which translates into more than 1 billion people, feel very or fairly lonely, according to a recent Meta Gallup survey. Meta, funny, isn't it? Of more than 140 countries.
Wow.
Notably, these numbers could be even higher. The survey represents approximately 77% of the world's adults because it was not asked in the second most populous nation of China. So it's probably higher than that. The World Health Organization, the U.S. Surgeon General, calling attention to the dangers of loneliness. These data collected in partnership between Gallup and Meta provide a much-needed global perspective on social well-being. Read that study at Smerconish.com today. I tie it to this next headline, even though this is not the purpose of the headline.
Mm-hmm. But I know why you did.
Right. There's a USA Today story today, the pros and cons of self-checkout. The pros and cons of self-checkout. last weekend, same time I was buying the beer, I was doing self-checkout.
Not at the beer. You need to check ID. Okay,
No. I went to a supermarket.
Got it.
I run my errands on weekends.
Yeah. When else would you?
Like, I'm always befuddled by a roll.
A roll?
A roll.
What do you mean
a sandwich roll? Well, I mean, I come up and I've got like the paper towel, ding, the ice cream,
Sure.
ding,
okay, but you
detergent, ding.
But you look it up in the bakery section.
I know, I struggle with it.
Okay, but you look it up in the bakery.
Yes,
I'm telling you.
I know, TC, but I struggle with it. I struggle with it.
Okay, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I'm telling you that I'm a relatively sophisticated 61-year-old.
So you say.
In 20 years, how am I looking up that roll?
Oh.
It's intimidating.
Oh.
It's intimidating.
Okay.
And you do know why I put the checkout story after the loneliness story, because it is one of those weak ties.
2 words.
It's one of those weak ties where
weak
people
ties.
get interaction.
Right. It's funny because you say weak ties and that sounds like something negative, but actually in the story and in the talking about it, it's a positive. It's a weak tie that's better than nothing.
When I was honored along with Jennifer Lynn by the Bucks County Herald, local newspaper, a week ago, and I had like 3 minutes to make my point. My point was about weak ties, and I cited the self-checkout, which eliminates the cashier, the fact that now you go to an ATM, you're not having the exchange across the counter with I used to know the faces. They closed my favorite local bank branch. They closed it. And it's just terrible.
Oh.
I miss being able to just see regular people and, they would know me and I would know them.
Okay.
The gas station.
Yeah.
The gas station where we pump our own gas. Another place where you had social interaction. All these things are falling by the wayside.
Yeah.
All these things are falling by the wayside.
Well,
okay.
and some people just don't like it because they think it goes wonky, the self-checkout.
One near tragedy and one tragedy. Also at Smerconish.com today. The Alaska Airlines pilot apparently was on mushrooms. Claimed exhaustion, mental illness, dehydration, said he had taken psychedelic mushrooms 48 hours earlier. That seems like a residual buzz, but I don't know enough about it. I didn't feel okay. It seemed like the pilots weren't paying attention to what was going on. It didn't seem right. Yeah, I pulled both emergency shutoff handles because I thought I was dreaming and I just want to wake up. Holy crap, that could have been horrific. 83 charges of attempted murder.
Yeah.
For the Alaska Airlines pilot.
Yep. And one of the lines that I thought was really interesting that said, if activated, the system cuts off fuel supply to the engines, quote, turning the aircraft into a glider within seconds.
Wow.
Yikes. Yeah, I feel for the guy if he's got issues, but that's just not okay.
You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of Dr. Sapolsky from Stanford.
Oh, not his fault.
Free will.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about him a lot lately.
Right.
That book club podcast you must listen to. I know tomorrow's TC's day. She's a very special guest for TC After Dark tomorrow.
Guest, the best guest.
Bizarre subject matter.
And yet
I leave it to her.
And yet the guest spoke with such enthusiasm and knowledge.
She's the host. She wants to talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we will.
But Dr. Sapolsky would say that Alaska pilot had no free will.
Okay, so what about the next story that you have?
Oh God,
I can't.
This is one of the this is one of these stories. There's someone in the community where I was raised. There's a young man, I think 18, swimming champion, one vehicle car accident. He's gone. Terrible. Community reeling.
Awful.
On the other coast, I've been following this story. I've driven on this treacherous road, which can be treacherous. It's gorgeous. I refer to the Malibu crash that killed 4 Pepperdine students. This guy apparently speeding in his BMW, a 22-year-old so-called baseball star. Look, I have sympathy. For everybody. 5 lives are over. 5 lives are over. The four were they all in the same sorority?
Yeah, Alpha Phi sorority at
God.
Pepperdine. And there's there are pictures of them from that night or the night before. Just four 4 young women.
Oh, I saw that.
Who seem
so
alive. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just so hard to even imagine.
Prime of their lives.
Yep.
They're at Pepperdine in Malibu. By the way, it's Pacific Coast Highway where it happened, and there are some twists and turns in it, and there's so much to look at, and it's just horrible.
It breaks my heart.
It's horrible.
It breaks my heart.
And then I also have to say, TC, that quickly, just 2 other stories, if I might. I made sure that I said to Alice, for the Susanna Gibson story, this is the Virginia woman running for the, what is it, House of Delegates, do they call it in Virginia?
Yes.
Where she, reportedly was soliciting tips.
Not reportedly. She was.
Okay. She was soliciting tips from people who would watch her have sex with her husband. That needs to be said, I think.
Does it?
I said to Alice, make sure you use the flyer, because I wanted the newsletter to contain the flyer.
And when you say the flyer, what do you mean?
There's now a GOP mailer.
Because we're 2 weeks out of the election.
There is a GOP mailer that what are people going to do when they close the booth? She's still running.
Yeah.
She's still running.
Oh, yeah, she is still running.
I wanted her to come on.
This is an invasion of her privacy.
I wanted her on this program. I wanted her on CNN. But listen to this. In the flyer, it says that for the money she would perform lewd sexual acts, including getting an unwitting hotel room service worker to walk in on her.
Oh, is that part of it?
What's the jolly of that? Hey, guess what? I'll even set it up.
Voyeurism.
I'll even set it up so that some random
and then
walks
you get to
in.
watch his reaction. Yeah.
Wow. And then finally, I told you that I love the Netflix show. Oh, by the way, the headline on this one at Smerconish, did you see the headline in the newsletter?
I did see the headline, Michael.
What was the headline?
Bend it like Beckham. How old are you?
7.
No, thank God.
13.
17. Go.
So they kind of moved
Headline,
quickly.
Rebecca Luce claims she caught David Beckham in bed with a model amid their alleged affair.
Right. So they kind of blew through this in the Beckham 4-part documentary. Yeah. But I was like, I'm watching. I'm like, wait a minute. What happened? Tell me more.
Didn't he deny
it was clear they had marital trouble, but they didn't go too far into it.
Got it.
In the show.
In the show.
The show's tremendous.
Right. But Rebecca Luce is saying that she wasn't the only one that David Beckham was having an affair with, that she once got a call from Victoria and went to find him, and he was in bed with a model, and then she was upset because he was in bed with a model.
I'm sorry, and what was the headline on the story? Ladies and gentlemen, have we not convinced you of the offerings today in the newsletter and posted at Smerconish.com? And of course, all the heavy news of the day and the very latest from Israel. Go vote on today's poll question, subscribe, and next Wednesday night, keep yourself available, okay? Because I think we're going to do something fun. See ya.